So, the global diagnostics industry, it just slammed on the brakes hard. After all that crazy, explosive growth we saw during the pandemic, well, the party's officially over. We're stepping into a completely new era, and we're calling it the Great Realignment.
You know that rocket ship that was the in vitro diagnostics or IVD industry? Well, it seems to have run out of fuel. All those tailwinds from the pandemic have pretty much vanished, and now the whole sector is getting hit with a sudden, sharp dose of economic gravity.
And look, this isn't just your typical slowdown. When you read the financial analyses, you see these big phrases like structural normalization and margin rationalization. So what does that actually mean in plain English? It means the game has totally changed. It's not about growing at all costs anymore. Nope. The new name of the game is ruthless efficiency and squeezing every last penny.
And make no mistake, this isn't just a few companies having a bad quarter. This is a tidal wave hitting the entire sector. We're talking about the biggest names in the business, right? Thermo Fisher, Abbott, QIAGEN, Illumina, they are all being forced to restructure. They're slashing costs, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, just to adapt to this new reality.
So let's be super clear here. This isn't just a blip on the radar, not just some market correction. We're watching a fundamental reshaping of a trillion-dollar industry. It's like a massive pressure test, and it's forcing every single company to prove why they belong, to justify their efficiency, their strategy, their whole vision for the future. The Great Realignment, well, it's here.
Okay, so how is this all actually playing out on the ground? Well, what we're seeing is this new environment creating a really sharp divide. It's separating the winners from the losers, the efficient from the inefficient. But to really get a grip on what's happening, we first have to understand the business model that makes this whole industry tick.
It's a classic, and it's called the razor and blade model. Here's how it works. A company will put one of their big, fancy instruments, that's the razor, into a hospital lab. They might sell it cheap or even give it away. But here's the catch. That machine only works with their special proprietary test kits and chemicals. Those are the blades. And just like that, the customer is locked in. It creates this beautiful, steady, and super profitable stream of revenue that just keeps on coming year after year.
And if you want to see just how powerful this model is, just look at this. Take a market leader like Danaher. A whopping 89% of their diagnostics revenue is recurring. Think about that. Nearly 9 out of every $10 they make comes from selling those high-margin blades. That is the engine that drives everything. But here's the thing. In 2025, even that powerful model isn't a guarantee anymore. Performance is all over the map. And what's really fascinating when you look at the numbers is the spread. You've got companies like Agilent just crushing it, growing over 10%. And then you have giants like Abbott and Siemens that are actually shrinking. You know that old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats? Well, that tide has gone out, and now it's starting to pull some of those boats under. Let's zoom in a bit. It's like a tale of two very different companies. On one side, you've got Agilent. They're posting a stellar 11% growth. Why? They've reorganized their strategy to be super market-focused, and they're really pushing these high-margin services. Then, on the other side, you've got Abbott Diagnostics. They shrank by over 4%. They're still reeling from the drop-off in COVID testing, and they're getting hammered by challenging conditions in China, which, by the way, we're going to talk more about in a minute. This right here, this is the realignment in action. So, if the old razor and blade model isn't cutting it anymore, what are the winners doing that's so different? Well, they're building a new kind of defense, a digital moat. It's powered by technology, and it is completely redefining what it means to be a leader in this space. The whole business model is shifting under our feet. It's not just about selling boxes and chemicals anymore. It's evolving into something people are calling ecosystem as a service. Think about it. The real value isn't just the test result anymore. It's in everything around it. Interpreting the data, selling valuable AI-driven insights, and fundamentally helping labs who are always tight on cash run a more efficient shop. And this AI revolution, it's really happening on two main fronts. First, you have what's called clinical decision support AI. Basically, it's smart software that helps doctors make faster, better, more accurate diagnoses. The second front is operational workflow AI. This is all about automating the lab itself. Reducing human error, speeding things up, and cutting costs. And the real winners? They're fighting and winning on both of these fronts. And this isn't just some far-off futuristic idea. Just take a look at this. It's an official roadmap from Sysmex. They are literally baking AI into their entire product line over the next few years. This isn't just some extra feature they're tacking on. No, it is absolutely central to their strategy for every single type of customer they have, from the high-end labs to those in emerging markets.
And this technology is already out there, saving lives. I mean, Roche has an algorithm that can predict if your kidney function is declining before you even show symptoms. MINDY has an AI that's been trained on millions of clinical reports to help automate the analysis. And Hologic is using deep learning AI to spot precancerous cells. This isn't science fiction. This is monetized clinical-grade AI that's being used right now.
Now, it's not all just about AI software. The other huge frontier is molecular diagnostics. And in this space, Illumina is the undisputed king with their next-generation sequencing, or NGS platforms. The easiest way to think about these is like super fast, incredibly powerful machines that can read genetic code at a mind-boggling scale. They are literally setting the pace for genetic research. And we're also seeing clever companies like bioMérieux combine that sequencing tech with machine learning to go after huge global problems like the fight against antibiotic-resistant superbugs. But, even the most amazing technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to operate in the real world. And right now, the real world is throwing up some major roadblocks, what people in the industry are calling macro ceilings on growth. And there is one country in particular that is at the dead center of this storm. Okay, let's talk about something called volume-based procurement, or VBP. In a nutshell, this is a government policy, and China uses it more aggressively than anyone. The government basically says, we're going to buy a massive amount of your product, and in return, you're going to give us a massive discount. For all these IVD companies that used to look at China as a gold rush, well, VBP has turned into a painful direct squeeze on both their revenue and their profits.
And the impact? It is severe. Siemens Healthineers saw a low double-digit percentage drop in their China revenue, and they pointed the finger directly at VBP pricing pressure.
It's not just them. Abbott, who we talked about earlier, explicitly called out VBP in China as a main reason for their sales drop. And the list goes on. Werfen also talked about a broad market correction in China that hit their global growth. Are you seeing the pattern here? The message is crystal clear. The China challenge is hitting everyone. No one is getting a free pass.
If you want to see this in cold, hard numbers, just look at Illumina. Their revenue from the Greater China region dropped from $308 million down to $243 million. That's a nosedive of more than 20% in a single year from what was supposed to be a key growth market. That is the brutal, real-world impact of these macro headwinds. All right, so let's tie this all together. What have we seen? First, the pandemic boom is over and it's forced everyone into a brutal new focus on efficiency. Second, that pressure is splitting the industry into two, the companies that can adapt and execute and those that are getting left behind. And finally, all of this is playing out against this crazy backdrop of fast-moving technology and major geopolitical risks. That whole picture, that is the great realignment. For decades, that razor and blade model was the golden ticket. It was the undisputed formula for success that built this entire trillion-dollar industry. But as we've just laid out, that might not be enough to win anymore. So the real question, the one that will define the next decade, is this. Is this new AI-driven ecosystem going to become the new engine of value? Will it be the thing that writes the next chapter for the entire world of diagnostics?
This explainer was based on analysis from HDIN research,